Hey everyone, welcome back to Land Investing Online, where we teach students how to profitably buy and sell vacant land. This is the simplest, least competitive, and most profitable sector of real estate. For more information, visit landinvestingonline.com to join our free Discord where Ron and I and tons of successful investors are involved. Come learn from the best. As always, please like and subscribe our YouTube channel, Apple Podcasts, Spotify, or whatever you guys are listening on. It drives this business forward and means a lot to Ron and I. As always, I'm Daniel Apke, joined again by my brother and business partner, Ron Apke. Welcome back, Ron.
Hey Dan, good to be here.
Today's episode is what to do with land that isn't vacant. Hot topic in our community. We'll get into that. But before we do, let's go over a question from one of our members. I just sent my first mailer 2 days ago. When should I expect to get calls and what should I do to prepare for calls? So I think let's turn this question around and just say what would you be doing in the meantime while you're waiting for that mail to hit? I think is a better way to word this question.
Yeah, getting your next mailer ready, to be honest with you, because once those calls start coming, it's going to be harder to sit down and price for a couple hours. You're going to be busier, whether your mailer was 2,000 or 10,000. Like you're going to be busy. Like it's going to feel like a lot of work because you're going to be doing due diligence on things, talking to sellers. So you want to get that. Maybe you're not ready to send the mail, but you want to get that priced and have it in the works. So you don't. And we talk about it all the time: deal flow and consistency. So that's the thing over those 2 weeks, and it does take about 2 weeks for the mail to hit typically, depending on where it's going. And that's what you want to be doing. Like you don't want to just sit on, you do not want your deal flow to be screwed up because you don't have your next mailer ready to send. So that's the biggest thing for me, Dan. If hopefully your systems are in place and ready for calls. If they're not, like get an Excel sheet at minimum. Just have an Excel sheet ready with whatever caller name, reference number, and stuff like that. Like any notes on the property. But I think that's the most important thing for me is get that Google sheet ready or whatever you use an Excel sheet ready, and then also get your next mail ready to send, like actually fully priced.
Yeah, and if you're following the course, make sure to do those operations that we talk about, whether you have a Facebook page, phone system, Google, Gmail in place, whatever you need to get the business running. Make sure that stuff's done as well, because that's we advise in the course to do that. Do a lot of that stuff after you send the mailer, just because we know that sending that mail is the primary goal of this business model. And if you guys delayed all that stuff to send your mail, I like that style, honestly. You put everything behind, you sent your mail out, and now you're like, okay, I got to get my system set up. That's a good way to go about it. Um, but there's so much to go on that you get kind of worked up in and get caught up in the weeds. My brother yesterday, I was on the phone with him. My other brother, he does land also. He's newer to the space and going through the course and all that. And he said he's getting a gray beard from stress. Just because there's so many different pieces to the business, and he's working a 9 to 5, and has a little baby girl running around. So there's just a lot going on. And I just told him take it easy and relax. It's no big deal. Just keep getting the mail out, honestly. But let's get into today's topic. So topic is what to do with land that isn't vacant. So let's talk about mobile homes, sheds, maybe someone's living on it, there's trash on it, boats in our case, which I'll get into an example. Um, so, you think you're getting a raw piece of land. Drone guy goes out there, maybe you see it on Google Earth. Maybe drone guy goes out there and he says, hey, this land's not so raw. There's, whatever it is on the property. Um, First off, let's start by saying this isn't always a bad thing. A lot of these that I just mentioned are actually attributes. Another thing, I was looking at drone pictures from a deal we're funding. Actually, it had a septic on it. Let's actually start with that because you will get properties with septics on it, or whatever it is. And if it has a mobile home on it, it might have a septic too because they needed legally. A lot of times they need to have a living structure on it. You need to have a health permit for a septic tank in a lot of counties. So if there is a septic on it, and I didn't even really have this in my list of something to talk about, but we do run into septics a lot. And a lot of times the sellers will say, it's got septic on it, whatever it is. You have to call the health department and confirm that there's actually a septic permit because we've bought and sold properties before. We had one where it had 2 trailers and supposedly a septic, and there was a septic on it actually. And we had a realtor confirm that, but we called the health department. They didn't have anything. They just installed their own septic system. which works, may not work. It does work, but it is illegal also. So we don't advise for that. But is that what you would do, Ron? Is just call the health department and see what permits are on file?
Yeah, for sure. And if there's not permits on file, treat it like there's no septic. Do not go sell the property as it has septic.
It's illegal.
Sell it as is. Just say, no, I mean, I would probably just be, I wouldn't even bring up septic to the end buyer, honestly, if that's the case and you can't confirm it. Um, Maybe you say it may or may not have septic, not 100% sure. But yeah, I call the health department. And then if there's not, then treat it like there's not.
Exactly. So let's talk about then. I'm just going to go through this list. So we talked about septics. Let's talk about with um, one we get all the time, mobile homes on it. We get that so much. You'll get calls and saying there's a mobile on it. How much do you want to pay for it? Whatever it is. Maybe it's an old mobile that someone does. That's what you have to find out first. Is it a livable mobile or is it an old mobile? And the more you deal with this, the more you'll understand. I think like the one of the I think I met with a mobile home guru a few months back, or probably 6 months ago, and he said if it's like 1987 or before, call it $0. I think that's how he put it. I think it was mid to late 1980s. I think because they do depreciate, and they say houses depreciate from the IRS perspective, but they hold up pretty good generally. Mobile homes actually will fall apart and just not be livable anymore. They're not like homes, permanent structures and foundations. So that's what you got to ask first: is it livable or not livable? Get pictures from the seller, whatever that is. But let's talk about that. You want to hop into that one, Ron?
Yeah, I think the first thing is asking the seller. Maybe they live there and they're trying to move or something, which obviously that's most likely livable. But that's not a very common case with us with our business model. But ask the seller, like, is it livable? Do you think it's livable? They might say no. They might say no one's been in there in 20 years. It's not going to be livable. Sorry to tell you guys, but either way, livable or non-livable, with mobile homes, it's never a defect in my mind. Um, I don't say it's always an attribute, Dan, but some people like an old mobile home. Maybe they're going to use it for a hunting stand or something like that. They're going to tear it apart. People are going to find uses of these things. We had one a few months ago, and I had no clue when we bought it. It had four old mobile homes on it, and we kept on hit. We had a few buyers who went there and like saying, "I don't want to hit the pay to remove this." I said, "Okay, that's fine." Then it's probably not the property for you. Like that's all I said to them. We'll find the right buyer for it, and we ended up selling it over asking price. And I think those mobiles did help. So obviously, if it's livable, it's going to have way more value to it. But don't look at it just because a couple people or maybe a drone guy says like you have to get this removed. It's trash. If it's an old mobile home, it's got some value to someone, I think, and it's definitely not a defect. It's never a defect having a mobile home on a property, um, uh, despite any condition, really, Dan, in my mind.
And I think, like you said, the hunting thing sounds awesome. I was just thinking, like, if I was buying, I always like to say, like, I know everyone's different, but like, if I was buying a property and there's an old mobile on it, clear that sucker out and, maybe pump out the windows and sit in there and hunt right out of your window in there, whatever it is. But I think it's not a defect, not because of that. Although some people do like see this like trash mobile as like something they can make something out of. And one thing you can do is the end buyer, you can tell them just put it on Craigslist. Usually people go, from what I've heard, will go and clear this out for free because they like the components. Maybe they're selling metal and there's a bunch of metal in there. Whatever it is, maybe there's old sinks that they can use, or a lot. You can put this on not YouTube. You can put this on Craigslist and usually get people to clear it out for you for free because they want what's in there. Um, but having a mobile on your lot means a few things. A lot of times it means electricity is right there and already tapped in, right? So you have tapped electricity. A lot of times it means they had some sort of sewage or septic, right? Not always confirm that. Definitely not always. And then another big thing is there's mobiles, a lot of times there's driveway, right? There's a place to get up there. There's a flat place that's cleared out of trees. It's just a cleared area to build, which is a really, really big attribute. So maybe the mobile home's not an attribute itself, but everything that comes along with having a mobile home and putting it on land, they did the work to get the mobile home to that land on an area where it can sit and get everything electric and all that stuff in place. That's a big attribute. It's pretty much a lot that's ready to build. You could put it that way. after you remove the mobile at least. And then that's all I really have to say about that. I would personally, if I were you, market that mobile home being on it. Old mobile home, get the pictures of it. It is, I think it's more of an attribute than a defect. Yes, it might make a few buyers shy from it, but overall, I think it attracts more, to be honest. That's just my opinion. Maybe you guys have different opinions. But let's talk about sheds now, because one of our first properties we bought was beautiful property, and it was cleared, had a little creek going through it, and it had a nice shed on it too. That seller was supposed to take it off, he just never took it off. And sheds happen all the time. We've had a lot of properties with different sheds on it, old, new, whatever it is. Sheds are definitely an attribute. Obviously, if they're falling apart, maybe not. But I think having a shed somewhere they can put that, like they just look at that, like, and have they look at a shed and have their imagination start running. Like think of things they can put in there or do in there, and whatever their situation is. Like I said, I always like to put myself in the buyer's shoes, and I would look at a shed and be like, oh, I could go put, I could hunt around there. I can put all my hunting gear in there and lock it up, or I could put my four wheeler in there. Whatever your situation is, you can run with the imagination. But like I said before, if you're not marketing this stuff properly, there's no reason to even have it. So you got to make sure to get good pictures, get drone footage of the shed, and market the heck out of it, and you will see a return on a shed like that. What do you see, Ron?
Yeah, I think, and we've talked about it before where we even talk about putting sheds on properties because they help the value so much. Like you might put a $2,000 shed on a property, it might increase the property value $10,000. We haven't personally done that just because the effort in getting the shed there, but like it can drastically improve the property value sheds, especially if they're in good condition or new condition, like we were thinking. But yeah, they're never kind of similar to how I look at mobiles. They're never a defect. Sheds are probably more of an attribute, honestly, than a really bad condition mobile, just because they're usable. Like you can open the door and you can put stuff in there. People aren't going to get rid of sheds on properties if they operate. And they probably last longer than mobile homes, honestly, Dan, if they're somewhat taken care of. But yeah, it's a really good attribute. Like it sells the property. Am I going to pay a ton more for a piece of land because it has a shed or a mobile on it? That's a really good point to this, Dan. Like I'm not going to pay a lot more money for a non-livable mobile home or a shed that's in okay condition. Like you just don't, like it's an attribute when you sell it. I wouldn't increase my offer price by a substantial amount. Maybe meet them, round up to the nearest thousand or something like that.
Yeah,
But other than
especially.
that, like
And
other than that, yeah, I'm not doing anything crazy with my price.
yeah, no, I wouldn't either. Unless like you do see some of these barns. I mean, this is rural America we're talking. Like the barns and sheds are on a lot of properties. And if they have some of these places that I've seen that we've gotten back, I don't know if we've really dealt with much, but I think we funded a couple where there's really nice like barns almost. These things are like 30, 40 feet tall and big open doors, and you could put a big old tractor on there, and there's poured foundation. That's definitely like you might need to go up on something like that because, like I said, this is rural America and people look at that stuff. Um, yeah, I don't really have anything to add. I do want to mention one thing. I don't know how much we talked about it with the mobile home deal, but yeah, like Ron said, make sure they're not living in it and no one else is living in it. We ran into a
Good point.
situation. I forgot to bring this up. We ran into a situation where we're buying from this woman, and her ex husband or
Yeah,
boyfriend, her ex husband was squatting on the property in the mobile home, and he's not on the deed at all, right?
correct. But can I fix what you're saying?
Yeah.
So he actually is. He had a. She was renting to him, and he just stopped paying like a year ago. So I guess you would call it squatting at this point. He just isn't leaving. But do you want me to finish it?
Yeah, go on.
Because I was dealing with it. So we're actually right now going through an attorney to go through a legal eviction, and We haven't purchased the property yet. I'm helping the seller. She's very friendly. She's just like, I want him off. The squatter, or whatever you want to call it, the tenant, he doesn't believe that we're here to buy. So I've talked to him on the phone and stuff. So we're just going through a legal process of an eviction. We own some rental properties, so we're familiar with it. We haven't done it in this state evictions, but they're pretty similar state to state. So we're literally going through an eviction process because it's a really good piece of land. I think it's a buy 30, 32 or something and sell. I think it's going to sell for 80 grand. So it's going to be a really good deal. It's going to be little bit more of a process, obviously. The attorney that we work with quite a bit for other deals in that area, not evictions, is taking care of it. And he thinks it's a pretty sure thing to get the guy out because he's just not paying.
Yeah, and talk to your title companies with evictions not like that. But it's that's a first for us where we've had to evict someone off of our property, honestly. We've talked about it before. We had one another one where it was really good property also we would have had to, but there's like four tenants or something on it. So I think we eventually said no because we weren't too comfortable with the process at that time. Hopefully he leaves his mobile home. Who knows? Maybe we'll have a mobile and some land. But
Yep.
it's just another opportunity. Like we talked in the last episode about providing value. Like if you can help this woman evict her ex husband off her property because he's not paying, like as long as you're not in New York or California, I've heard the eviction rules up there are a little harder. Like they're not paying for six. I don't. You said 12 months, Ron?
I don't know how long it's been,
Whatever.
but
He's not
this
paying
is
for
a
5 months
yeah.
plus. They need to get off the land. Eviction shouldn't be that hard, in my opinion. If they're not paying you. So in this state, luckily, it's not hard. So we're going through with it. Last thing I want to talk about. I just wanted to add that back in there, by the way. But last thing I want to talk about is trash. This is a big one, and trash is it's still a vacant property, but there's trash on your property, right? The biggest thing I see on properties is tires. We've had so many properties with tires. People, I think you need to pay to dump tires in most areas. You can't just throw them away in a normal trash can. You have to pay to dispose of tires. So someone knows that Joe Smith lives in New York and the property is in Louisiana and they never come down here. They ain't been here in 15 years. So everyone dumps their tires and crap on their property, which sucks. It actually, like, I get mad when I see this. Sucks for the owner, but it ends up being a big defect, right? You have we have one we're funding now. He said up to 1,000 tires on the flat spot. Um, and tires are not easy to remove. Think of picking up one tire. All right. Now you got 1,000 of them. Like you're going to need some heavy equipment in there digging this stuff up. Um, so that's the most common. And on that same property we're funding, it's a good deal. We're negotiating down and we'll get into that a little bit, but there's also two boats, and I don't even know what to think of these boats. I've never seen, vacated boats on our properties before. So this is new to us, but there's two boats and up to 1,000 tires. So what are we doing? We're negotiating down. Like I said in the last episode, the more ammo, the better. We have pictures of these tires, good pictures of them. We have pictures of both boats. Like we have a lot of ammo. We can go back and good luck selling this. You got two boats and 1,000 tires on this. You can try to get it removed and then sell it to us, but that's going to cost you over $10,000 probably, whatever it is. Like it's going to be truckloads and truckloads and truckloads. And I don't even know how you remove a boat that's sitting there, to be honest. Like you're going to have to demolish it, then take the pieces probably. Because
Mhm.
it's an old boat. It's not like it's in good shape sitting there. So trash is a common one. Ron, what do you have to say?
I'm going to kind of take this different turn because I talk about it a lot, and I want to. It is so valuable getting pictures of properties before you buy them, and this is a perfect example. Um, like this. I think the buy price is 23,000 or something like that. We're telling him to negotiate down to like 10 or 11. The drone guy might have cost 150. I think like when you have ammo like this, you can talk them down without a doubt. The trash is a defect and tires are a really big defect. I don't know how to look at the damn boat stand, to be honest with you. I don't think it's a huge defect, honestly, having two old boats on there or whatever. Someone might be able to get an engine out of there or something. I don't know what. But the tires are a giant, giant defect because of the cost. It costs about $2 to $3 per tire to get rid of them. Um, and that's if they're like on a flat surface, not down in a gully, like the disposal of them. To actually pick them up and go get them, I don't know. But like Dan said, tires are not something that you can just throw away at a dump. Typically, you get charged for them, and this is something that it's gonna cost a lot of money. We've got quoted on getting tire removal before. It was one of our first deals actually, and it's crazy expensive. What we did and what we'll do on this, to be transparent, is we're going to negotiate down and then we're going to sell the property as is. We're not going to negotiate down to uh, to go clean it up or anything like that. if we're buying this at $10,000, we'll sell it for 25 pretty easily, I think, as is. But if we bought it for 23, we'd be in a lot of trouble to break even or barely make any money.
Yeah, another really good story of how that bailed us out. How drone pictures bailed us out of potentially sticky situation. This was a good deal at 23,000. We like this deal. We're funding it. We liked it a lot. And then all these tires are there, and the thing is, like Ron said, $2 to $3 a tire plus all the labor to remove. It would take so much effort to get those out. This is rural America. You can't. There's no driveway leading to this special little spot where all these tires are sitting. Right? They went 200 feet back in the woods and dumped all these tires type of thing. It is not easy. It's a lot of work. And
Yeah.
on that property, Ron was saying that one of our first properties that had a bunch of tires, we used that as ammo, got them from 15, maybe 16,000 to I think 5,000. And what happened was, I remember this conversation. He told me that he was like, I'm going to try to get him removed. I think he lived in the area kind of. No, he was away, but he was like a good old boy, good old Southern boy. He's like, I'm gonna get someone up there to remove them all for me, or maybe I'll take a weekend down there and remove them with my equipment. So I was like, all right, call me after you remove them. I'd love to buy this at 15,000 or whatever it was. And same for the deal we're funding right now. I'd love to buy that at 23. Remove every single thing on there. Cool, call it. We'll buy it at 23. But what happened for this deal, or one of our first deals, was 3 weeks went by. He didn't remove them. I kept calling him, and then he's like, "Yeah, just." He realized how expensive and how hard it's going to be, so he ended up just taking the 5,000. He's like, "Whatever, let's do it." So they see, like, if they want to look into it and see, if they call a realtor to go to that property, the realtor is going to have a much worse reaction than we're having, to be honest with you. Um, but yeah, you just got to negotiate down. Like, get your ammo, negotiate down. That's all I have to say, Ron.
Yeah, I think this was a really helpful episode because we hear it all the time. Like the things to take from this episode: trash, tires, those are defects. Everything else, like unless there's some kind of environmental, and then it's a whole nother story. With I don't know, some refrigerators leak some stuff, so you got to be careful with those. But for the most part, trash, tires, those are huge defects generally, or they are. And then the other things, old mobiles or old whatever, old burned up houses, old sheds, those are all attributes, or at worst, they just don't affect the value.
Exactly. All right, guys. Well, that's all we have. I hope you guys enjoyed. As always, like, subscribe, our Spotify, Apple Podcast, YouTube, whatever you guys are watching on. It really means a lot to Ron and I, and it drives this business forward. Other than that, guys, thanks for joining. Visit landinvestingonline.com to join our free Discord where Ron and I and tons of successful investors are involved. Come learn from the best. See you guys next episode, and thanks for joining.
Thanks, guys.